In the absence of Von Miller, never felt more. Von Miller, however, still optimistic about next year. Take a listen.
You know, I came here to have multiple shots at winning the Super Bowl. I came here, you know, this wasn't I didn't feel like, you know, this would be my only shot, like this one year. I felt like I had multiple shots at the Super Bowl by the way this team was built, by, you know, our quarterback, our defense. I felt like I had, you know, multiple chances at the Super Bowl, and I still feel like that, man. I'm super excited for year 2 with the Buffalo Bills. I'm super excited to line back up and do it all over again. I'm super excited to get back to Rochester and go through training camp and, you know, to be healthy again. So I'm super excited, man. And just because we lost to the Bengals, it doesn't diminish the type of team that we have. It doesn't diminish, you know, our position in this league. We have a really good team, and, you know, our window is still open, man. And it's, you know, brighter days are definitely ahead for us.
Doth protest too much.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but the teams with the best Super Bowl odds, the Bills, the Niners, and the Chiefs. For those keeping track at home,
3, 2, 1.
Exactly. The Niners and the Chiefs have been to, in the last 5 years, 8 conference championship games, 3 Super Bowls between them, and they both might make this one. And the Bills have been to 1 conference championship game. And in some shops, the Bills are co-favorites. So everyone's going to fall for the same okie doke. And people think right here I'm going to talk about Josh Allen, but I'm actually not. Because the Bills were the only team, Brew, with a defensive head coach of the final 8 teams remaining. And there are some real issues to that. It's like, are you going to be too conservative? They kind of were. Or is your offensive coordinator going to get hired away from you? Well, that happened last year and it hurt them. But the positive is supposed to be, we're going to be tough. We're going to step up in the biggest moments. We're going to be a defensive-minded team. So can we talk about how the last 3 seasons have ended in Buffalo and what Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow have done to them in those 3 games? 300 yards, 9 touchdowns, no picks, a passer rating that would be the highest in NFL history, and averaging more than 35 points per game. That's how they've lost. Because their defense, for a team that not only is a defensive-minded coach, but spends money on defense.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Since they drafted Josh Allen, they've had 9 picks in the top 90. 7 of those picks have gone to defensive linemen or running backs. And what did we see on Sunday? Can't run the ball with their running backs, and they can't rush the passer. So that is a fundamental problem. The next fundamental problem is a dollars problem, Brew. They have 10 guys that take up $150 million of their cap next year. Josh Allen's cap hit goes from 16 to 40. Diggs's goes from 11 to 20. The guy we just heard from, Vaughn, his goes from 5 to 20. There are only 5 teams in the league in a worse cap situation going into next year. They are $20 million over next year's cap before anything happens. And so it is not me being a hater or casting aspersions, Brew, to say there is no reason to believe next year's team will be better than this year's team. They will have to pare away some of the talent. And this year's team was not close to good enough. So Vaughn can say all that, but the only known quantity they have coming back is a 34-year-old pass rusher coming off a torn ACL. As far as that's going to be different than what they had right
Hyde
there. Yeah, but Jordan Poyer is an unrestricted free agent. He could be on the way out. And so I'm not saying the window's closed. What I'm saying is they are taking a step backwards, and they weren't close enough this year.
I don't know that they're taking a step backwards. What they lose? 4 games total? What were they? 14-4, I guess, was their overall record. They're in the hunt. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Joe Burrow's right. When you're an elite quarterback, the window's your prime. All right? Aaron Rodgers hadn't been to a Super Bowl in a decade, but the window was still open. They just didn't walk through the window. But they will be back. They will be back. And as I said, defense was the problem. The defense can't get it done in the playoffs, is what
That's
we've seen.
my point.
Because in the regular season, they were second in the league in
and
points
last year
allowed.
they were first.
Right.
And then Mahomes
and
put
then in the
42
playoffs, they struggle. But Micah Hyde will be back. Obviously, Von Miller presumably will be back. Tre'Davious White I don't think he played well this year. So he only played 6 games. He came back from injury. I think if he's healthy,
but hold on,
helps.
real quick on that thought though, because we gotta do the math right. So Tre'Davious White didn't look like Tre'Davious White.
Right.
Why? Because he was coming off a late season torn ACL. But Von Miller will be back and fix everything. Von Miller will be coming off a late season.
I don't know that he
ACL.
fixes everything, but look, they're going to. What they need to do is strengthen the offensive line. That offensive line was bottom 10 in the league. And get if you strengthen the offensive line, you could have a run game, and so everything isn't on Josh Allen's shoulders.
But okay, they had their worst game of the year by a mile. They looked like they were not in the Bengals class.
Right.
And they are a team that, again, when we talk about how they need to improve, there are certain teams in a position coming off season to improve. You have extra draft picks, you have cap space. The Bills don't have extra draft picks. They don't have a good draft pick as far as it's, I think, going to be 27th. And their cap space is negative. They are already over next year's cap without adding a person. So when we're talking about teams taking a leap or teams taking a step back, the Bills were positioned for this being their 3-year run. Then you take a small step back, then you make a run again. Their 3-year run came and went, and they have nothing to show for it. It's a real big
teams go. Tom Brady went a decade without winning the Super Bowl.
We were always out there.
I'm just saying, no way you should write Buffalo off.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm certainly not writing them in.
Oh, speaking of, we're about a half hour away from talking about the Patriots and Bill O'Brien, but right now we're going to stay in Buffalo. Stefon Diggs, criticized for asking Josh Allen to play better, took to Twitter to defend his competitiveness. Want me to be okay with losing? I'm not. Want me to be okay with our level of play when it's not up to the standard? No, thank you. It's easy to criticize my reaction more than the results. Stefon, I don't know if you caught the show yesterday. We criticized the results.
Yeah, I don't get that last tweet.
Oh, I
criticize
do.
my reaction rather than results.
Yeah, he's saying it's easier to criticize me rather than criticize everyone for the reason we lost, which wasn't me. That's what he's saying.
Look, I think overall they'll be fine, but I would have rather him come out and be like, look, Josh and I go at it like this all the time. That's my guy. I'm still with him.
Yeah,
but in practice and stuff like that, you may.
We don't.
In practice and stuff, they probably do get on each other.
It's just dimes and awesome touches.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen something where he kind of squashes this notion that there's a beef.
But what if he didn't? Because there is. What if he's frustrated?
Man, this does happen.
Okay, he's gone 5
guys
playoff games
yelling
without a
at each
touchdown
other.
catch.
And people tried to make a big deal out of Bieniemy and Mahomes going at it. It was nothing. This is typically nothing.
Okay, you know what I think? I think we saw the canary in the coal mine for an emotionally immature team 3 months ago, and I was laughed at.
You weren't laughed at.
I was. You know what? Daniel Negreanu criticized me for this.
Oh, that?
Yeah. When your offensive coordinator can't keep his cool
I'm not mad
after a mid-season, regular season loss.
It was a bad game, though.
We then expect Stefon Diggs, who's in the cauldron, to keep his cool after a mortifying playoff defeat? I don't. You got a 40-something-year-old grown man wearing a visor and with highlighters and khakis breaking stuff. Yeah, Stefon Diggs is going to what? What's the problem?
Was that a visor?
Okay, I'm not sure what his head is. Point remains.
Dorsey would argue he's in the
and so this emotionally immature team has been
a great take.
It's an emotionally immature team, and their leader Josh Allen is his play almost speaks to the immaturity of get it all back right now, take the kill shot. You know what I mean? They are a team that hasn't won, doesn't know how to win, and doesn't know how to the highs and the lows and the ebbs and the flows of the season. And it percolated down from the box from Dorsey a few months ago. Now you have Diggs getting trolled by Eli Apple and not being able to do nothing about it.
It's a good take.
Rough times. Tough times.
Plus, he loves Sharpies so much. When he saw those Sharpies
that was
moving out.